Congratulations! In the roughly 13.8 billion year history of the universe, you have chosen to spend the next 10 minutes of your one wild life listening to me talk about a hole in Minnesota. Statistically, you could be doing literally anything else. You are not. Respect. Welcome back to Gallows Geek, the channel where we take things that should be terrifying and make them slightly less terrifying by making fun of them instead. Today's victim? A waterfall in northern Minnesota that, for almost a century, appeared to break the actual laws of physics. It's called the Devil's Kettle, and depending who you ask, it either swallows river water into a bottomless void, connects to a secret underground lake, or, and I promise I am not making this up, leads directly to China. Here's the setup. Deep in Judge C.R. Magny State Park on the Brule River, there's a spot where the river hits a wedge of volcanic rock and just splits. One half does the completely normal, boring, well-adjusted waterfall thing. It drops, it crashes, it continues downstream like every other waterfall on Earth. Very responsible, very predictable. The other half, though, pours straight down into a round rock basin, the Kettle, and then just disappears. No pool at the bottom, no visible outlet, no stream picking back up downstream with the extra water. It just goes in, and as far as anyone standing there could tell for decades, it never comes back out. If you're a 19th century settler with no diving equipment, a healthy fear of God, and absolutely no chill, this is exactly the kind of thing that makes you go, yep, that's a portal. That's definitely a portal to somewhere we shouldn't go. And to be fair to them, it's not like they had a lot of competing explanations lying around. No satellites, no hydrology degrees, just a guy standing next to a hole that's been eating a river since before his grandfather was born, doing the only reasonable thing available to him, which is making something up with total confidence and passing it down as fact. Which, honestly, is also how most group chats form opinions today. So let's not pretend we've evolved that much. So naturally, people eventually tried to actually find out where it went. And I want you to appreciate the sheer commitment of the methods here, because this wasn't one guy shrugging and writing, probably magic, in a field notebook. Researchers dumped dye into the kettle and waited for it to show up downstream. Nothing. They threw in hundreds of ping pong balls, logs, GPS-tagged floats, anything that would float and be visible if it ever resurfaced anywhere on the Brule River or even out into Lake Superior, which the river eventually feeds into. Nothing came back. Not one ping pong ball. For a waterfall that was, by all visual evidence, swallowing an entire river's worth of water every single day. Do you understand how much water that is? This isn't a garden hose disappearing into a drain. This is a legitimate river, gone, into a hole roughly the width of a hot tub, with zero trace for the better part of 100 years. At some point, the math stops making sense, and the void starts looking pretty attractive as an explanation. If a hole swallowed that much water near you and gave nothing back, would you assume science hadn't caught up yet? Or would you just personally never go near it again? Let me know in the comments. I need to know how many of you are secretly cowards like me. And look, humans do not handle unexplained well. We are, as a species, allergic to mystery. Give us a hole that swallows a river and gives nothing back, and within a generation, we will have convinced ourselves it connects to an underground lake, a secret cave network, a whole other ecosystem down there. Or, genuinely, this was a real popular theory, that it tunnels directly through the Earth's core and comes out the other side, in China. Which, sure, a rock formation in a Minnesota state park definitely bores a hole through several thousand miles of molten iron core and pops out in someone's backyard in Hebei province. Very likely. No notes. That one especially bugs me because somebody had to say it out loud first with a straight face to another adult. And that adult had to go, yeah, actually, that tracks. No fact-checking, no pushback, just full commitment to the bit for 100 years. There were also quieter theories floating around. A hidden underground lake nobody had mapped. A cave system connecting all the way to Lake Superior. Even a couple of people convinced something living down there was pulling the water in on purpose, which is a genuinely unhinged escalation from the water goes somewhere to the water is being eaten. Mystery makes people spiral fast. The real answer, when it finally arrived, was somehow both less exciting and more impressive than any of that. Before we get there, though, it's worth saying the Devil's Kettle didn't stay a quiet local legend either. Once cameras and hiking blogs, and eventually the internet got involved, this thing became a genuine pilgrimage site. People driving hours out of their way, specifically to stand over a hole that supposedly ate a river, and shrugged off every attempt to prove otherwise. Park rangers apparently fielded the same handful of questions on a loop for decades. Where does it go? Has anyone gone down there? And my personal favorite, has anyone ever fallen in? Which, don't. Please don't. The waterfall doesn't need volunteers. There's also something very fitting about the fact that a hole nobody could explain became one of the most visited spots in the entire park. We will drive past 100 completely normal, well-documented waterfalls to go stare at the one that might be lying to us. Mystery isn't just entertaining, apparently. It's a tourism strategy. In 2017, so recent that people who now have driver's licenses were alive for this, researchers went back with better tools. Not ping pong balls this time. Non-toxic dye, careful timing, and actual patience, tracking the entire stretch of river both above and below the Kettle. And what they found was that the water wasn't disappearing at all. It was rejoining the river downstream, just doing so turbulently, so churned up and broken apart by the rocks and the force of the current, that it was completely undetectable by eye. No calm pool, no obvious outlet. Just violence all the way down until it quietly merged back in without announcing itself. So the bottomless portal was, this whole time, just a really, really good disguise for plumbing. The water was never going anywhere weird. It was going exactly where water goes, downstream. It was just too chaotic and too well hidden in the geology to prove it for almost 100 years. 100 years of ping pong balls, underground lakes, and international water tunnels, solved by someone finally standing in the right spot with a stopwatch and slightly better dye, which honestly, devastating. I wanted the underground lake. I wanted the secret cave network. Instead, we get it was just really turbulent, which is the geological equivalent of finding out the ghost in your house was a draft the whole time. No refunds on the emotional investment, apparently. Real quick, second thing worth sitting with. This mystery survived the internet age. It survived satellite imagery, Google Earth, drone footage, an entire generation of people with cameras in their pockets standing right next to it. And it still took until 2017 to actually confirm what was happening. Because turbulence, it turns out, is really good at hiding in plain sight. Which should tell you something about how many other obvious mysteries out there are just waiting for someone with a stopwatch and mild patience to walk up and ruin them. But here's the part that actually gets me, and it's the same part that gets me about basically every mystery on this channel. The not knowing was never really about the waterfall. The Devil's Kettle sat there, doing exactly what physics said it should do, for the entire 100 years we spent inventing lakes and China tunnels for it. The water never stopped making sense. We just hadn't stood in the right spot yet, with the right tools to see it. And I think that's kind of the whole deal with being a person who exists on a rock hurtling through space at 70,000 miles an hour. Most of what looks unexplainable to us isn't actually broken or magic or cursed. It's just turbulent. It's just happening somewhere we haven't figured out how to look yet, which is either extremely comforting or extremely unsettling, depending on how your day's going. No judgment either way. It's also, weirdly, kind of the story of every mystery this channel has ever covered, and probably every one it ever will. Something looks impossible, right up until the exact moment someone shows up with slightly better tools and slightly more patience than everyone before them. The mystery was never really the point. The waiting was. If today's video did the one thing this channel exists to do, made a real mystery entertaining without lying to you about it, do me a favor and subscribe, because I've got a backlog of unsettling things that turned out to have boring explanations. And honestly, those are my favorite kind. Somewhere out there is a lake monster or a haunted forest that's just turbulence in a trench coat, and I intend to find every single one. And if you're now the kind of person who wants to go stand over the Devil's Kettle yourself and personally confirm the plumbing theory, first of all, respect. It's still there. It's still loud. and it will still absolutely make you feel like you're looking at something ancient and unknowable, even though we now have the receipts. Knowing the answer doesn't actually make it less cool in person. It just means you get to be smug about it while everyone else around you is whispering about China. So next time you find something that looks like a bottomless hole in the universe, a waterfall, a weird noise in your house, a text that says we need to talk, maybe it's not a portal, maybe it's just turbulence, doesn't make it any less terrifying in the moment. But at least you'll know somebody someday is going to throw a ping pong ball at it and figure it out. I'll see you in the next one. Try not to think too hard about the fact that you, personally, are also mostly water, also turbulent, and also technically going somewhere you can't see yet.